Jimny 5-door from Suzuki. Epic destinations. Legendary journeys.
Welcome to Tarmac Life. We're here for the fun toys, cars, SUVs, utes, flights, hotels, because the journey matters too, and even the odd motorbike when we feel like living dangerously. Epic drives and unforgettable experiences, all served up with plenty of banter and zero boring nonsense.
On tonight's show, Honda's HR-V is back. We review the latest generation 4-seater e-HEV. We tell you what's going in our dream garages if we won Lotto. Frustrated with linking up your phone and car? We tell you how on tonight's Tarmac Torque. Then, we review Hyundai's Ioniq5N, a real-life video game.
Kia ora and thanks for joining us. Tonight I've got my angry face on again first. Why is it so hard for Kiwi motorists to merge on the motorway? Well, actually particularly on the on-ramps. I just can't figure it out.
I mean, in theory, it's supposed to be simple, right? That you merge like a zip, you let one in, and then you go, right? As long as you don't cross the lines and all of that, that's how it should work.
It's just so annoying.
We would welcome your comments as to why you think that is the case. Because in the meantime, these two are busy reviewing the Honda HR-V. That's up next.
Now, when the high-riding revolutionary vehicle, or HR-V in short or for short, came out in 1988-89 in New Zealand, it was quite that. It was revolutionary. It was all based around being more roomy, more efficient, and also fun to drive. And the ethos for this, or that ethos, has now been carried forward for this latest generation. It is still very, very roomy inside. It is still fun to drive, and also it is more efficient, particularly because now we only come in a eHEV, so it's a hybrid version. In terms of size, the dimensions are very much the same in terms of length and width as before, but it's also now narrower. So that means that the wheels are more accentuated. But looking at the front here, you've got a design that looks very much more EV. So aerodynamics are coming into play. So very much about getting the wind around the vehicle. You've got the lights here are directional. So the indicators you can see very much directional, and LED headlights, but also the Honda badge is now blue, making sure that you know it's an eHEV. The tailgate itself is electric and also opens up to, I think it's around about 304 litres of boot space with all the seats up. Now, under the bonnet here, what we have is Honda's very impressive eHEV system, which is basically a two-motor system. You've got a 1.5 litre ICE engine, which offers 78 kilowatts of power and 96 newton meters of torque. And that is coupled to an electrical motor which offers 127 kilowatts of power and 253 newton meters of torque. The motor, or the ICE engine, acts as a sort of generator which then drives the electrical motor, which then drives the wheels. However, it will also decouple under excessive force of the accelerator, so general driving for me, and then it will just drive the wheels directly. So it's kind of a dual motor system. What it means is it's very efficient when it comes to the economy. So 4.3 litres per 100 kilometres in terms of efficiency. And also when it comes to emissions, it's around about 98 grams out of the exhaust. So not bad. In terms of acceleration, 0 to 100 in just under 10 seconds, or 9 point something. So it's not actually going to win any sort of sprint races. But if you're looking for a vehicle that's very efficient, which is back to its heritage, this is the one.
The interior, I think, is designed in a similarly efficient way in its use of space. So for me, the resemblance with this third generation car is more so like the first generation car in terms of its boxy, sort of more straight edge styling. And what that means is more space in the interior, both front and rear seats. The two front seats are wrapped in a PU leather and the middle is fabric. They are both heated as well for the driver and passenger. You get a heated steering wheel as well, and then dual zone climate control in the front here. Now, this HR-V uses Honda's 7-inch infotainment screen, which is typical of what we've seen on the other cars like the Civic, CR-V, the Jazz as well. And it makes a really good use of both the touch areas as well as the buttons for shortcuts. And the instrument cluster in front of the driver as well shows plenty of information. Again, making use of a more traditional analog-looking dial on the right, and then a modern digital screen on the left. As you'll see from the camera angle there, I have folded the seat down. This is part of Honda's Magic Seats configuration. So there's 18 different ways you can move the seats around here at the back, and they do fold completely flat, which is quite a unique thing in this segment. The other thing is you can push them back up like so, and then bring this up entirely if you want to fit things across the back here. So really quite amazing and, well, magical, as Honda call it, from that perspective. However, the one drawback of these seats at the back here is that it only seats two, one on either side. There's no middle seat, no seat belt, no allowance for that at all. So a little bit of a niggle when you do need to carry that fifth person. For the most part, this HR-V, I've got to say, is a really comfortable car to do long drives on. The suspension is nice and soft. At the same time, it still has a decent bit of handling capability.
Because you've done, what, 1,100 kilometers, and you've been averaging, what, 4.9 liters per 100 kilometers, which is not bad. I think on a fuel tank of, I think the size here is roughly 40 liters. That equates to, I don't know, maybe 900 kilometers of range, which is phenomenal.
It's amazing. So I've been driving around in econ mode, using regen braking whenever I can, and I've achieved 4.9 liters per 100 Ks on average through my long trips so far. And it's just been incredibly efficient, considering the fact that 4.3 is the factory, the perfect world figure.
Yeah.
That I can get so close to it within, 0.6 of a liter. Amazing accuracy, I think, from that sense.
And that really does tick the boxes when it comes to this HR-V, because it really has established itself as an efficient vehicle. So throwing an eHEV sort of powertrain into it has been, a genius idea.
And the way the powertrain works is it's not just at low speeds where I use that complete EV power, but if I'm being gentle on the accelerator, I can even get all the way up to 80 with using just pure EV power. Yes, if you want to actually get some speed going and get it moving, you do have to kick in that petrol engine, and it does really come to life with that eCVT gearbox revving all the way up and making not such a pleasant noise. Sometimes you think, the engine might fall to bits, but it does its job of charging up the battery as well as getting you up to speed.
The other thing is just how quiet it is in here when it's not got the engine trying to, bust a gut. It's very, the NVH they really have upped, and also the rigidity of the chassis has been increased by, I think it's around about 20%, 15% in the torsional rigidity as well. So it's a very strong, stable vehicle.
Absolutely, and it was something I was driving along with my family, and my dad, who was sitting in the back, actually noted that when going around corners, especially ones with banking on it, there's not that much body roll. Usually you feel it more so at the back, and he did make a particular remark of saying that, he's not actually feeling sick because the body roll has been reduced on this new generation car. So
and he's usually very sick when you drive.
Which is exactly why I'm surprised that Dave's let me take the wheel of this thing.
Yeah, he was terrified, right?
Alright, that felt like a significant step forward, almost to the point that it was worth waiting for the facelifted version to be available for us. And the Magic seats, I must say, are in fact magic, so long as you're comfortable with just having 4 of them.
I have to say that both of us would probably agree, all around the HR-V eHEV is actually a great package. It's safe, efficient, the list of features, technology, all of that is really good, but having 4 seats, I think it's a bit of a downside, and to some, shopping for a family SUV it's going to be a deal breaker.
Now, we often get asked what are our dream cars, and we thought we'd actually put together a bit of a challenge and have a little bit of fun with it. So, okay, chaps, $1 million lotto win, what would be in your garage? Think about that as we go for a break.
An all-new Audi Q5 era has begun. Experience bold new looks, future-ready technology, exhilarating performance, and complete flexibility. The all-new Audi Q5 range is here.
All right, gentlemen, I'll give you a little bit more time to think because I'll go first. $1 million. I would, being a child of the 80s, I would have one of them, a Ferrari 308 GTS, you know, and see if I could grow a moustache to be Magnum. I would possibly see if I could sneak in an old 911. And then I would fill the rest of the garage with some fast forwards. So I'll have an Escort Mexico, an Escort RS 2000, and a Ford Capri 2.8 injection with the pepper pot wheels. Anything I've got left over, I would turn it into a man cave. That's my money done. Job's a good one.
That's very much off the era. I can see a little bit of a trend in there. And for me, I would, for starters, get your man cave as part of the deal so I can focus my budget on the cars alone. And I'll start with a car that is dedicated for daily driving. And it is going to be very controversial, I know, but I would go for an iX, the BMW EV. I want an isolation pod. But then I have a few non-negotiables, one of them being my grail car, the LC500. All of you know that I am completely obsessed about that car. And to have something that will go the distance and will go anywhere, I would go for a Lexus LX. And let's not forget then, for something very special and still in the vintage side of things, an E-Type Sportster.
Okay, I have to say, I don't know how far $1 million stretches where Harry comes from, but it certainly seems to go a long way. My list, although, is almost as rambly, frankly, as yours, because I'll start off with the big piece. I'd have a early model Lamborghini Murcielago, manual in yellow as well. That is a lot of my budget gone straight away. But with what's left over, I would get probably a Ferrari 599 GTB, have a Maserati Quattroporte GTS, the 4.7 liter V8 one, Jag XFR, supercharged V8 of course, and as a sensible-ish daily, I'd probably go with an Audi RS4.
Okay, I'm sensing a little bit of a trend in there, I'm not gonna lie. And yeah, we would welcome your comments to pretty much solidify the fact that I have the better garage. And of course, we would also welcome $1 million each. We struggled a lot to come up with this list, and there is something else that people struggle quite often to do in their cars, which is connecting their smartphones. And that's why we decided to make this tonight's Tarmac Torque topic. Every brand new car on sale today says that it has seamless connection to your phone. But do you actually know what that means? All the way back from the Bluetooth of old to now the full-fledged wireless projection of phones, this has changed vastly over the past few years. And depending on which brand you buy, the experience can go from very mesmerizing to very frustrating. Let's start with the basics, with the trusty old Bluetooth. It was the first actual bridge between these devices in the cars that we drive every day, but it mostly focused on music and calls. So then most of the other things actually needed to be done by the cars themselves, but it really got us accustomed to having more and more things that we already handle on the day-to-day as part of our commute. As these systems evolved and cars became more and more just computers on wheels, they also very quickly realized that it was probably easier to leverage the heavy lifting of things such as navigation, for example, to these supercomputers that we carry in our pockets every day. And considering that smartphones are mostly divided into two different camps today, this is how we got Android Auto for the Android devices and CarPlay for the iPhones. And it started in a wired form, meaning that you always had to have these cables inside of your car and that you also always had to fight for the charging port when going on a longer trip. But the process got easier and easier as the years went by, and now it should be as easy as just plugging into the actual data USB port of your car and then plugging into the back of your phone, and a configuration screen should pop up very, very easily. With CarPlay, you get this simple, polished, no frills kind of experience that honestly just mimics what you get with the iOS as well. It doesn't have all the customization or all the ability to sideload apps, but you get that it just works kind of mentality that Apple devices have just been known for so long now. Android Auto has much of the same approach in terms of the features that it offers, but it is quite literally a different beast in itself, and it all comes down to the fact that Android phones come in all different shapes and sizes quite literally. So as you plug in here, the first thing that you see is that yes, setup might be as simple as CarPlay, but the amount of things that you can do in terms of customization and changes to the phone just varies a little bit more. But then in order to really take this to the next stage, phone companies decided to unshackle us from the wire and make these projections now wireless, meaning that it is literally just jumping into the car, turning it on, and you are ready to go, copying all the things from here into here. The downside is that the phones might get hot, which then drops a little bit of the reliability on those connections, as there is just a lot of information being transmitted between the two systems, and of course it takes a big hit on the battery. That's why we are now getting more and more wireless charging pads as well, and I know that doesn't help too much on the heat part, does it? But there are also a few car makers out there that are actually taking a detour from all of this and offering very competent systems from themselves that do not have any kind of phone projection from the phones. Think of Tesla or maybe other brands that are actually using Android Automotive, which is not the same as Android Auto, to provide an Android experience inside of the car itself with no need for a phone. Yes, you still need to log into your Google account and your Spotify account, for example, but you will have all of those things running straight from inside of the car, as if it were your second phone. The goal of all of these connections is to make the most out of these big screens that we now get in cars, so that your infotainment, your navigation, your music, all of that is in a very familiar way presented to you in here, but also that you can do things inside of your phone, be it from the passenger seat or if you are on a break between a trip, for example, and then as soon as you jump in, you are ready to go with no interruptions. And they are constantly looking at one another to decide where to go next with those products. It will mostly come down to the preference that you already carry with you in your pocket. Case closed.
So you don't just shake it at the phone or your phone at the thing and hope that it connects. It's going to save me a lot of frustration now. Thanks for that. And also the Android and CarPlay, who cares about that? Anyway, it was very interesting. Thanks.
You are most welcome. And yes, it is magic, but not to that level that you can just wave a wand and things will happen. And if you have read my reviews, I know that both of you have, you should too. You see how much I always cover these bits about the technology. It is such an integral part of interacting with a car on the day-to-day basis that it really needs to be discussed.
And something else that's tech heavy and actually has had us all discussing its importance and its leap forward in technology is the Hyundai Ioniq5N. That's what these guys review after the break.
Welcome to your out there life. You're the transport logistics operator, the I can take two more kind of neighbour. You're the bus driver to an ever-changing bunch. Which way is it? Oh fudge. There are plenty more like you out there. Here comes one now, not one seat spare. Mums and dads, multitaskers too. Ah, you're home now. Phew. Monkey, dinosaur, salamander. Welcome to your new Outlander.
Now, it's fair to say that EVs have been getting a bit of a bad rap lately. I mean, particularly in New Zealand, where we've lost the EV incentive and now we've got RUCs. And so therefore, I don't know, it's become less attractive than they have. And certainly when it comes to petrol heads like Harry and myself, not having a soundtrack or an ICE engine soundtrack means that they've been pretty dull to drive. I mean, they're fast, but quiet. Which is exactly why Hyundai have basically introduced this beast. It's the Ioniq 5, so it's fast and it's an EV or EV speeds and stuff like that. But it now comes with an amazing soundtrack, so it actually sounds like an ICE engine. More of that in a moment. But they've also made it look tremendous. So it comes with this matte paintwork, which is just stunning, and what they call an N mask round the front here. It even comes with a racing stripe right down the middle, as you'd see on a steering wheel, right at the end, the red mark to make sure you're pointing in the right direction. In terms of the vehicle's profile, it's hard not to miss these wheels. And also, in terms of stopping, we've got 4-pot brakes as well, so it brings this 2.5-ton vehicle to a stop very abruptly.
It sort of maintains the same big dimensions that, of course, you would get on a normal Ioniq 5, but now with the N bits being mostly cosmetic, it doesn't change a whole lot of the actual footprint on the inside. What has changed, though, is all the N treatment that Hyundai has given to the interior of the new Ioniq 5N. And that, of course, starts by the first thing that you interact with once you get inside of the car, which are these lovely bucket seats. They are this mix between the materials that should make for a very breathable and comfortable experience, with a lot of bolstering that we will cover a bit when we are on the drive. And then here with this lovely N steering wheel, pretty much the actions that stay very close to your thumbs are the same as you would have on a normal Ioniq 5. So on the left, you have your adaptive cruise settings. On the right, you have everything to do with media. But then as we start exploring the new settings in here, the drive mode button, which this time is blue, very N of them, you use to interact with eco, normal, and sport modes, which of course will change the behavior of the car a little bit. But then if you really want to get everything full kilowatts, you can then use the NGB button, which is new, and the G in here stands for grin, and it's absolutely what it does. You will be able to see that when we are on the drive. And then by using these two N buttons in here, you can very quickly access settings that you would have customized, and believe me, you could get lost in here for hours. I could even go as far as to say that you would need an engineering degree to get all of the options sorted out in here. However, an extra thing, which is probably the biggest party trick of this car, you might have just noticed, is that now we have this pumped engine sound coming through the speakers. And it is the actual soundtrack that Dave was talking about before. Hyundai really went out of their way to try and recreate an internal combustion experience with the sound of the Ioniq 5N, and they did an amazing job of that. You can see here that it actually even mimics a tachometer in the middle of the dashboard in here, and I can actually rev it all the way up there. And you can even hear that it does the pops and bangs, because they tried to recreate the experience of an i30N or an Elantra N, which are the engines that Hyundai has on their repertoire to try and recreate for this driving experience, and it is really good. It adds this extra layer of engagement to the driving experience, and something that will really make this a little bit more geared towards enthusiasts and the people that will be expecting that extra layer for the EV driving experience.
Okay, so the thing that we forgot to talk about so far, actually we've omitted it, is the fact that this vehicle has 2 electric motors that gives you 448 kilowatts of power and 740 newton meters of torque. And what that means is a 0 to 100 in 3.4 seconds. And that is just remarkable. And that is exactly what I wanted to point out. I decided not to use the gears because it does do exactly like an ICE car, even to the point where it skips a little beat when you're changing up and down. Honestly, I'm speechless. I'm obviously stammering right now because it's such an amazing feeling.
It really, really is. How they managed to recreate the behavior of an internal combustion car is remarkable. It has the pops and bangs. It has the thing that it will let you ride the limiter because it's not hurting any engine because there is none. And then these shifts, it's so good. It's so much fun.
And it honestly, it makes you drive like a superstar. And also, as Harry says, you're not hurting an engine because there is no engine, even though you wouldn't think so. And then there's the handling. My God, this handles well.
so competent and so planted. Of course, it's assisted by these wide tires that are amazing tires, by the way. But of course, it manages to hide how much weight it has because it has so much power, but also the added grip and of course all the brakes to go with it. It pushes all the boundaries.
Oh, and boundaries. This really does blur the lines between an ICE vehicle and an EV because, let's face it, we're both petrol heads, and to have a car that feels, acts, drives like a superstar of a vehicle, and yet you can dab up and down a gearbox like an 8-speed DCT. And just drive like a lunatic. It really is quite tremendous.
Who said EVs are not fun?
And then the other thing is, even when you're still feeling like you're driving like a superstar, you can push the N button and just go even faster, unleash all those kilowatts and just pull your face off because it's crazy fast.
It is
and
brain
then
indeed.
It comes back on.
Yeah, so you might have noticed that it sort of kills this added layer of the gears in the engine sound when you are using the full boost, because it doesn't want this sort of fake stuff to hinder the ability to deliver all the power. And then as soon as it's done, it comes back to simulating.
They've absolutely nailed it. And the other thing is, if you do go near a track, you have a drift mode. You can put the bias towards, or 100% towards the rear wheels, and so you can just act like a drift monster as well. There are naysayers out there that are going to go, why would you spend 125 grand on trying to get a car to make it sound like a 30-40 grand car? But I say to you, drive this bloody thing.
Yes.
Because it does everything your 40 grand car will and your 100 grand supercar will do, and yet just give you grins all the way. It's fabulous.
Well, this time I didn't actually miss out because Harry so kindly let me have a go in the Ioniq5N. And what it reminded me of was, you know, as kids you go to the arcade and play those games with the sort of shifters and steering wheel. It felt like that, but in real life, on the road this time. Didn't you feel the same?
Oh, very much so. I think that it is a perfect way to describe it. And we must not forget that when it is doing all those fake things, it is actually slower. But I think that it is all that much better for it. It's not about the power, it's about the fact that Hyundai really made an enthusiast-friendly EV, and probably the most engaging I've driven so far.
So what did we learn tonight? EVs give you more grins when they act like an ICE. HRVs are magic, well, particularly in the seat department. We didn't flip out when we were connecting our phone, and I actually have the best garage. Anyway, see you next week. I just can't figure it.
No. What am I? Oh, yeah. It was so good.
As we go for a break.
The 4 seats configuration, you know.
Magic seats.
Yep, got it wrong.
You know, pretty stylish, efficient, well-equipped, safe, and of course... We're like freezing frame.
Yeah, that's it. Well, it definitely looks like it was a massive step forward.
Now, we often get asked, what is our dream car? Dream car. Dream car.
Well, it definitely looks like it was a massive step forward, to the point.
Actually, can I do mine again?
No.
No? All right.
Choose what brings you joy. Choose adventure. Choose something extra. Choose to live large even when driving small. Choose to roar. Choose to lead the charge by going electric, or the best of both worlds with a plug-in hybrid. Choose to connect while disconnecting with the world around you. Life's a joy when you live it on your own terms. What will you choose? The BMW X Range.